Today is April 23rd. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we're going to be reading out of Personal Stories Part 2, They Stopped in Time. We're moving on to story number 8, Because I'm an Alcoholic, pages 338 through 340. And out of the 12 and 12, we are going to continue our journey through Step 12 by reading page 121 today. So with all that, I hope you're doing well today. We've been given a brand new set of 24 hours, and it's up to us who we decide to be. Let's try to protect our integrity today. So with all that, let's get to the good stuff. So if you recall from the Big Book in yesterday's reading, we had some great stuff we finished up with, crossing the river of denial. I'll just read the last few lines of her testimony. It's just beautiful. So here I am, sober, successful, serene. Just a few of the gifts of the program for surrendering, suiting up, and showing up for life every day. Good days and bad days. Reality's a wild ride, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. Now don't question how this program works. I trust in my God, stay involved in AA service, go to lots of meetings, work with others, and practice the principles of the steps to the best of my willingness each day. I don't know which one of these keeps me sober, and I'm not about to try to find out. It's worked for quite a few days now, so I think I'll try it again tomorrow. It's absolutely beautiful stuff. So now we're moving on to our next story here on page 338, Because I'm an Alcoholic. This drinker finally found the answer to her nagging question, why? So now we have another woman's testimony here. I think that's 2 or 3 in a row now. It's great stuff to see this different perspective. So we're going to be reading the first 2 pages. As a child, isolated in the country, I made up stories, inventing myself along with imaginary companions to play with. Later, when we moved to a large city and I was surrounded by kids, I felt separate, like an outcast. Although I learned to go along with the cultural norm as I grew up, still, underneath, I felt different. Alcohol helped. At least I thought it helped until I saw the oppressive 30-year shadow it cast on my life. I discovered it in college. And although at first I didn't drink often, I didn't have the opportunity. Whenever I started, I drank as long as there was any alcohol around. It was a reflex. And I don't remember liking the taste, but I liked that it seemed to bring me to life and get me through a date or a party able to talk. It moved me outside of that hole I felt in myself and lowered the wall that I created between me and any person or situation that made me uncomfortable. For 10 years, through college and graduate school interspersed with jobs, I drank periodically, so it was easy enough to think that I was a social drinker. Looking back, I see that alcohol helped me construct an image of myself as a sophisticated metropolitan woman, diminishing my feelings of being a backward country girl. I studied vintage wines and selected them with care to accompany the gourmet dishes that I learned to make. I read about the correct drinks for various occasions. I learned to put just the tiniest whiff of dry vermouth into my martinis. Meanwhile, my tolerance for alcohol grew, so that while at first I got sick or passed out, as time went on, I could hold larger quantities without any visible effects, until the next morning's hangover. Behind the facade, my real life seemed just as out of reach. I wanted to consider myself grown up, but inside I felt small and helpless, hardly there at all. I would look at my friends, delightful, interesting, good people, and try to define myself through them. If they saw something in me that made them want to be with me, I must have something to offer. But their love for me was not a substitute for loving myself. It didn't fill the emptiness. So I continued spinning fantasies, and now alcohol fueled my dreams. I would make great discoveries with a Nobel Prize in medicine and in literature as well. Always the dream was somewhere else, further off, and I took a series of geographical cures in search of myself. I was offered a job in Paris and jumped at the chance. I packed my trunk, left my apartment to my boyfriend, and sailed off, thinking that at last I would find my real home, my real self. I began to drink daily and rationalized that in France, of course, you have to have wine with meals. And after dinner, after the wine, there were liquors. My journals and letters bear witness in the deterioration of my handwriting as the evening wore on, drinking as I wrote. It was there, too, that I first became dependent on alcohol. After work, on the way to the Alliance for classes, I stopped at a bistro for a glass of cognac to give me courage to get me there. My need greater than the embarrassment of being a woman drinking alone in the 1950s. One vacation, I went to visit friends in Scotland, traveling slowly through the English and Welsh countryside. The bottles of cognac and Benedictine that I brought as gifts for them, I drank in little hotel rooms miles before I got there. As long as it lasted, I could stay out of the pubs. Europe hadn't proved to be the change that would repair my life, and I started west again. It was in Cambridge that I pronounced my first resolutions about cutting down. New Year's resolutions I recycled for a dozen years while my drinking and my life just kept getting worse. Alcohol had enslaved me. I was in bondage to it, although I kept assuring myself that drinking was a pleasure and a choice. Blackouts began. Vacant places in my life where hours would disappear lost to memory. The first time was after I'd given a dinner party. The next morning I woke up without remembering that I'd told my guests good night and gone to bed myself. I searched the apartment for clues. The table was cluttered with dessert dishes and coffee cups. Bottles were empty and the glasses too. It was my custom to polish off any drinks that were left. My last memory was sometime during dinner. Did we ever finish? But there were plates. I was terrified that I'd done something horrendous, until my friends called to tell me that they'd enjoy the evening. Alright guys, so first of all, I apologize for my voice. It's starting to go out on me a little bit. But you can see here that her life's starting to become unmanageable here. So we'll come back to this in just a minute. Alright my friends, so out of the 12 and 12, we are continuing our journey once again through step 12. It's been a long chapter, but it's been a good chapter here in the 12 and 12. So the step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Bottom of page 120. Upon entering AA, these attitudes were sharply reversed, often going much too far in the opposite direction. The spectacle of years of waste threw us into panic. There simply wouldn't be time, we thought, to rebuild our shattered fortunes. How could we ever take care of those awful debts, possess a decent home, educate the kids, and set something by for old age? Financial importance was no longer our principal aim. We now clamored for material security. And even when we were well established in our business, these terrible fears often continued to haunt us. This made us misers and penny pinchers all over again. Complete financial security we must have, or else. We forgot that most alcoholics in AA have an earning power considerably above average. We forgot the immense goodwill of our brother AAs, who are only too eager to help us to better jobs when we deserve them. We forgot the actual potential financial insecurity of every human being in the world. And, worst of all, we forgot God. In money matters, we had faith only in ourselves, and not too much of that. This all meant, of course, that we were still far off balance. When a job still looked like a mere means of getting money rather than the opportunity for service, when the acquisition of money for financial independence looked more important than a right dependence upon God, we were still the victims of unreasonable fears. And these were fears which would make a serene and useful existence, at any financial level, quite impossible. But as time passed, we found that with the help of AA's 12 steps, we could lose fears no matter what our material prospects were. We could cheerfully perform humble labor without worrying about tomorrow. Alright guys, we will stop there today. While this is fresh, I love this. We could cheerfully perform humble labor without worrying about tomorrow. Just doing what we can today. Let those worries for tomorrow be worries for tomorrow. I think it's good to obviously financially plan as best you can, But there are some things that are just beyond our control. All we have is today. And fearing tomorrow does nothing for us today. And going back to the big book real fast, we can see that our friend is really starting to get to that point where her life's becoming unmanageable. She's starting to have the blackouts, and they're not so severe yet, but they're getting there. And of course, we know it's only going to get worse before it gets better. Guys, that's all we have for today. It's a short reading. I apologize for my voice cutting in and out here, but hey, if you're here today and you are sober, you are a miracle. And I'm sure those who love you are very proud of you. As always, I don't speak on behalf of AA or NA or any other sector, denomination, or organization. I am just a guy, your friend in recovery. And if we're given another set of 24 hours, I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.